Hi everyone, I'm Janine Perez and welcome to Made for Marketers, the show where marketing leaders share their smarts in strategy and execution to help power the customer journey and drive growth. And in this episode, we'll be talking about building a thriving marketing team. Joining us to share her smarts is Alison Green, an executive marketing leader with over 25 years experience in management, integrated marketing and CX transformations. She's worked across the globe on agency side and brand side, including London Transport and of course more recently Pepper Money. In her time, she's built teams from 5 to 95 and certainly knows a thing or two about building a strong and thriving marketing team. So really excited to have Alison join us today. Thanks very much, Alison.
Thanks for inviting me. It's good to be here.
Tell us, this idea of building a thriving marketing team. Marketing is so diverse these days. There are so many various skill sets you need to really run a full functioning team. How do you think about that? How do you think about what a thriving team looks like?
Yeah, well, you're quite right. It's changing all the time in terms of the team construct. It's very diverse these days. But one of the things for me is always to look at what the business objectives are and build a team to actually help achieve those business objectives. And out of that, obviously, from the business objectives becomes a marketing strategy. And from the marketing strategy, you can then build a team that can actually deliver to that strategy. And that, to me, is one of the core things, is to not look at what the traditional structure of a marketing team is, but what structure and what support and skills are required to actually begin to deliver on that strategy and be on point all the time.
Yeah, got it. And so in a context then where, you've got that business strategy and perhaps that strategy is changing as they are doing so more and more these days, how do you shape that team over time to ensure that, you've got some consistency in the team and you're giving people that sense of, team development, but you're able to, right fit it to the business?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things with teams and developing teams is to actually understand the core skills of the individuals and the talents. And that's not just necessarily their job function, but it's actually what really makes them tick, where their natural abilities are and where their talents are. And I think if you can understand that, you can actually begin to channel them into areas where they really thrive and grow and develop within a team and within a business environment as well. And I think some of the core things around that is, are they genuinely strategists or are they really good at execution? And there's your kind of natural dividing line. And neither should take precedent. And everybody can make a contribution to the plan and the program. And in fact, it's vital that they do. But it doesn't mean that, in a traditional hierarchy, you tend to think you've got to be strategy before you can actually get a promotion. And I actually don't believe that, because good strategy needs even better execution. And they're different skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on about that. But I think what's interesting for me about that point is that you absolutely need both. And so a strong team can't survive with just one or the other. It's got to be a combination of both, so that you've got those, strategists building the vision and understanding how to bring that vision to life through marketing, and then execution excellence, because a great strategy is nothing without the delivery. Particularly these days, there are so many, the growth of an explosion of channels means that actually execution is actually more difficult than it ever has been in the past. So Alison, tell me, what are some practical ideas and tips for marketing leaders looking to get that collaboration and that teamwork, and particularly, helping teams work across those silos? So whether it's within marketing or even across the business, what are some things that they can be doing?
I think one of the first things is open conversations. And I think that's really important. And it's not about people, again, sort of scuttling off and actually having their own ideas. It's actually bringing ideas to the table. I'm really keen on whiteboards. And so one of the things I always try and do is to actually bring all sorts of people together, to actually have that early conversation, and even to begin to actually interrogate what the objectives are, because often people can run off and have ideas about what they're trying to achieve, whereas in fact by actually doing a little bit of problem solving and critical thinking really up front, you might actually find that the problem that they're trying to solve can be executed in a different way or tackled in a different way from the beginning. So one of the first things is to have those conversations and really interrogate the question, interrogate the objectives, and actually come to an agreement as to what it is you're trying to achieve and what resources are available to help actually progress that particular question or objective.
Yeah, and it sounds as though, a lot of what you're saying there is applying a lot of critical thinking, which we know is a key skill set for marketers at a strategy level, but also at an execution level. I think that idea of constantly questioning what are we aiming for, what are we achieving, what does success actually look like, what's the most efficient, effective way to deliver on what we need to deliver, and not just thinking through that and making, I guess, your own decisions, but aligning the business around that, or aligning the rest of the marketing team around that, so that everyone is on the same page. Is that, that idea of critical thinking, is that something that you think is critical, is important in sort of today's marketing team where things are moving so quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it. And if you haven't got the right people in the room, you won't get the right answers. So again, it's really understanding what people are going to be able to help make that contribution. And they come from all parts of the organization, and certainly all parts of the marketing team. And it's not just about strategy, it is about understanding execution and the efficiencies that are required to be able to deliver against the various channels. No one person's got the answer, but you bring everybody together and they can get some really amazing solutions, and really pragmatic ones as well. Because often the more simple they are, the more practical they are, the better the execution and the faster you can go to market. And I've certainly read on more than one occasion that high-performing teams spend 20% more time actually in strategy and problem solving, and it means that the execution is faster. And certainly when I've tried and when I have introduced this to teams, and they might groan a bit about, back to actually looking at what the plan is, what the program is, before you actually go and run off and execute, they've actually appreciated that investing that time up front has made a big difference.
So Alison, how do you get, given the complication and often all that critical thinking and planning and mitigating, anticipating what might come next, that marketing need to do before they can actually go to market with a campaign or a program? Sometimes the business can get quite frustrated at marketing, not realizing all of the thinking and planning that we have to do before we can actually act, thinking that, marketing's just, moving too slowly, sitting on their hands, navel gazing, all those things. How do you get the business to appreciate and understand all of the factors that we know as marketers we have to take into consideration before we can actually push something out?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a lot about clear communication and open dialogue. And it's also about the organization, and certainly the departments that you're working with, having a real appreciation of the sequence and dependencies that are required in order to deliver a campaign or to deliver any task, really. And that, again, marketing isn't just working on its own. That cross-collaboration, being able to draw out a marketing journey as well as a customer journey that actually helps to understand all the processes that are required in order to deliver a job that's compliant, it's risk-free, it's gone through all the various approvals before it can actually go to market. And again, by being clear and about what the processes are, I think it does make a big difference, and people do begin to appreciate. Again, and go back to the whiteboard example, sit in a room with a couple of stakeholders and explain all the elements that are required in order to get a campaign to market, and the contribution that each of those function makes, and the time of those contributions. I think people can begin to realize and appreciate exactly what is taken into it, and the fact that they do need that involvement.
In my experience, certainly in corporate days, it's actually the best way to build advocacy. And really sort of build kind of confidence in marketing and making people feel like they are sort of part of part of the journey. And so they can become actually your biggest advocates in terms of, you know, supporting you in getting your job done, because they know ultimately they're going to benefit from it as well. And so that concept, I know you've sort of, when we've talked in the past, you've talked about this one team, you know, idea. And it is something not just within marketing, but obviously in terms of the broader business and marketing playing a pivotal role across the business, you know, that almost uniting function, if you like, because of the need to work across so many different functions. Do you think, I mean, how do you think about that kind of one team approach? And is that something that you strive for in terms of building teams and the mindset, I suppose, that marketers have when they're working in a high caliber team like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really comes down to being customer centric. And I think that's one of the key drivers of having one team, is the fact that everybody's thinking about the one thing that drives the one team, and that is the customer. You know, if we put customer first, customer needs first, then I think everything else sort of falls into place. Or at least it's easier because you're having one conversation and it's about what's right for the customer at any given time. So it goes back to that very typical marketing solution, which is right information, right time, right place. And it's as simple as that. And that's the one thing that really hasn't changed over the years. There might be different ways of measuring it. There might be different ways of going to market and connecting with customers. But the one thing that's always been constant is the fact that it is right information, right time, right place.
Spot on. And I think, you know, that the customer journey part of it, that really is, it's almost like the blueprint, if you like, in my mind at least, that governs, that gives you the outline of what you need to do, when, how, for who. It's so important, and sometimes I think it can be overlooked, and people, you know, different parts of the business in their own minds know what the customer journey is from their perspective, but having an aligned vision or view of that customer journey end to end that captures not just the sales process, but actually all the pre-sales and kind of retention pieces as well, is so powerful. And you know what, when we're running customer journey workshops, etc., and building that out, it's again another great way of galvanizing everyone around and aligning people around the priorities. Where are the gaps? Where are the sticking points? Where are the hurdles? And from there, you know, your programs and priorities can run. So I think that's a really strong point, and I think something that, especially in B2B actually, because it is more complex, more nuanced, I should say, that sometimes, gets overlooked.
I think it does, and yet if you can sort of draw people back to the journey, and more importantly the insights, because the insights help the decision making and they help the planning. It takes all the subjectivity out of any conversations, and also it's not necessarily the people sitting around the room, because we might not be the customer, and therefore again having that real appreciation of who it is we're talking to and why we're talking to them, again across the functions. So what is the customer service team? What do they bring to it? They're often on the front line. They're hearing it every day. You know, does that actually differ from what the insights are telling us? Because there's a conversation we need to have. You know, what's happening on the front line from the sales perspective? So there's all these different things that keep bringing it back to the table, so keep having those conversations.
Yeah, spot on. And it's something in our last episode, actually, we spoke to Nicole from Janine, and she was echoing what you're saying, particularly around that operational input. So important and sometimes forgotten, the, you know, people at the front line, and bringing that anecdotal feedback into the business and using that to drive insight and really clear understanding of customer pain points, you know, customer motivations, all of those issues that are quite so important, and sometimes not the sorts of things you can uncover through traditional research methods. So yeah, I think you're spot on there. That ability to sort of, you know, be connected to the rest of the business and take that overarching view and bring those in, and remove the subjectivity, as you say. One of the other things that I think about is obviously the complexity of marketing today, and the pressure on marketing teams today to be all things to all people puts obviously a lot of added pressure on agencies. And if we kind of often extend the idea of, well, the team is not just the internal team, but it's also our various agency partners. I know obviously you've had you started your career in agency life. I'm interested in hearing how you think about that one team dynamic in the context of, marketing team and agencies coming together, and how we drive a more effective marketing agency relationship that does align to business outcomes and business growth.
Yeah, it's something I'm very passionate about. It's one team. We go back to that conversation we were having earlier. It is about having one team. It's about partnerships. It's about appreciating that they have skills. They, being the agencies, have skills that we haven't got in-house, and that's why we've actually appointed them and working with them. And I think one of the things also is that don't keep the agencies separate from each other. So have conversations, because everything, again, if you're looking at one team, you're looking at one solution. If you don't have the agencies being able to talk with each other as well as with the marketing team, then you're always going to have a disconnect, and we want to avoid that at all costs. We want to have something that's seamless, efficient, and effective at all time. Agencies are looking for information from clients in order to be able to create the best possible solution for them, and I think that starts with really good briefing. But it's not necessarily the type of briefing that agencies do themselves. In other words, marketing teams aren't expected to write good creative briefs, for example, or good media strategy. That's why we've got our partners. So we need to provide our agency partners with really good insights into our customers, into how the business functions, what the core objectives are, what the background is about our products and services that are going to make a difference, and then allow the agencies to do what they do really, really well. And then sit and collaborate, be able to have input into the creative brief, which is produced by the agency and not by the marketing team, and then build it up from there. And it is that sense of collaboration, again, open dialogue and discussion. We're all on one team. We're all trying to get to the same end goal.
Well, thank you, Alison. I mean, I feel like we've covered a fair bit on this topic. We could talk about it for a little bit longer, but sadly we've kind of run out of time. But before we let you go, we'd love to, spend a bit of time just talking through our kind of skip or play session. So this is just a bit of a fun segment where, we ask you, Alison, throw out some kind of content creators or some content types and ask you if you will skip or play them. Are you ready?
Yep.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Play.
Yeah. The Original Office.
I'll skip.
Yep. Conversations. It's a podcast, ABC podcast.
Play.
Play. Mumbrella.
Play.
Graham Norton.
Play.
Star Wars.
Play. My kids would kill me if I didn't.
Okay, fair enough. Cats the musical.
Oh, skip.
Okay, fair enough. That's all we've got time for. Thank you so much, Alison. It's been really great to talk to you and have you share your kind of years of knowledge and expertise on building a team. For people that want to reach out to you or get in touch, what's the best way for them to do that?
Find me on LinkedIn, Alison Green. Thanks very much. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been great to have you on. Encourage anyone who, likes this episode and wants to know more to kind of like it, share it, and watch out for the next one, which will drop in about 2 weeks' time. Thanks very much.